Hey, my name is Julia Cunningham. I'm here with WHOSAY, and as our ongoing Power of Influence series, we're honored to have the amazing Chyler Leigh join us. She portrays Alex from Supergirl on the CW on Monday evenings. Welcome.
Thank you.
You know, obviously there was a huge turnaround reveal for your character this season that was slowly built up as her finally coming out. I want to know, when you started initially talking about this emergence of your character, this devolving, what were you sort of unveiling slowly as the character? Sort of like, how would you portray, you knowing beforehand this sort of internal struggle that she obviously was carrying within her?
Well, what was really interesting, I mean, as far as like knowing the storyline, when they were going to do that, I had no idea that Alex was going to be lesbian. Like, literally got that information like 5 weeks before we started season 2. So that was an interesting introduction, was like, by the way, she's gay. And I'm like, okay, all right, cool, okay, yeah. And it's been a heck of a journey, but I think the biggest thing for me is it was so uncomfortable for me personally to play Alex in any kind of romantic situation. So being vulnerable like that, like we'd only seen a few examples of that, well, a lot of examples of that with Kara.
Sure.
In season 1.
Yeah.
And so there was that side to her that was sort of opposing the that badass kind of like always having stone face, like just taking names, you know what I mean?
Right.
Kind of thing. And then so having it brought up in season 2, it just wasn't even on my radar initially. And so actually then having to be in romantic situations, it was awkward, and I felt awkward in it. So I think it translated pretty well, actually. But luckily, I mean, with Floriana, she's just an amazing person, and so we really had to kind of navigate it together. Because for her character, I mean, she was already, even in the comic book, you know, she was already gay.
That was known.
Yeah. And then for my character, it was just, I'm not in any of the comics.
Right.
So I'm an
You
original
can do whatever
character.
you want.
We could do whatever we wanted, and we can, you know, really kind of push those limits. But she was a great person to be on the journey with, because she's just as invested in telling a good story, and that was the most important thing, you know, to me. But really watching the development of Alex this season has been tremendously challenging in all the best ways.
Oh, I'm sure. And I assume in some ways people watching and knowing that Kara's character had drawn chemistry to you, because prior to your episode where your character comes out, I saw through social media that people were already saying, I can see sparks between you two.
Yeah.
That something was happening. You know, and could you see the way that the fan base was shifting, that more people were starting to discover, maybe even just word of mouth, that there is an LGBT, you know, community getting involved into this TV series?
Well, you know, I think it threw a lot of people off, I think, just initially when they said, because Greg Berlanti came out last year saying that there was going to be a character in one of the shows that was going to be coming out, you know, as gay. Didn't say one way, didn't say, because he didn't want to, that was the only like terminology. Queer, yeah, so it was just, there wasn't anything specific that was put out other than it could be on this show or it could be on that show. And people immediately was like, it's going to be Alex. And I was like, wow, how did you come up with that? And they're just like, well, we haven't seen her in any kind of situations. And then, you know, it kind of, people figured it out pretty quickly. But it was really like that very first scene with Floriana, you know, the two of them, Alex and Maggie, meeting, that it was like, okay, I can get it. And people then really jumped on board. But I don't think it was really on anybody's radar initially.
Yeah. Well, even I think there's something so interesting about the way to see like a real relationship unfold, especially for someone new in a relationship, but also someone who holds resentments from their childhood. As she says, she was, you know, heartbroken on Valentine's Day growing up, you know, and those sort of things. And, you know, just in the terms of social media, do you find that there's more stories that are outlets for people that you've sort of been pulled into, and just hearing about people's stories, and also realizing, how do you now become that influencer, because now you are, whether you want to or not, pulled into that community?
Yes, that's very, very well said. In question form, yes.
Yes.
But it's been overwhelmingly positive in so many ways. I mean, I've had many, like thousands, and I mean genuinely like thousands of responses and people telling me their story, and I mean like some really deep, dark stuff. And I'm a mom by nature. I just have a heart for people and have a heart for, well, really just humanity in general. But once I'm hearing all this, and I knew initially, like Greg Berlanti said to me, he's like, just understand, this is going to be a really big deal. You're going to get a lot of notoriety, which for me is like, it's not about that. For me, it's like, I do want to know that if I'm spending time away from my family and I'm going to be working on something, it's got to be 100% worth it. And like, for me to be able to step into this and tell a story that is having such a huge impact on millions of people, like that brings such a deep satisfaction, you know, and especially in an area that is so misrepresented and so undermined in so many different ways. And there aren't a lot of storylines of this depth, of this kind of magnitude on TV right now. And if they are, as the whole, is it the Klexa, is that what they called it?
Yeah.
The whole, everybody's being killed off.
Right.
And so we were very much like, I'm not dying, I'm not going anywhere, it's okay, like, she's gonna live. Lesbian lives. We'll just say that that's the new hashtag.
Hashtag lesbian lives.
Yeah.
Hashtag lesbian lives. And between your social media and you're just shy of 1 million between both combined. You're getting close.
Ooh, that's a good way to say it.
Do you find one is easier to respond to people? Because obviously you have the limitations of Twitter. Instagram, you can go a little bit further because I'm sure you're getting obviously positive, but I was also scrolling through and seeing negative, you know, and seeing on message boards and seeing whatever else, like whether or not it's a quote unquote appropriate for the CW, which is quote-unquote family-based, although it's television for everyone. Do you find that do you have a rule for yourself? Like, how do you engage with people with this conversation?
It's a delicate balance. It really is, because I want to make sure that what I'm saying is encouraging. I want to make sure that I'm building people up, but I do get such raw, like, open, honest comments that I'm kind of like, okay, I got to figure out how to navigate, you know, how I should address it, if it should be addressed right away. But I'm trying to get to as many people as I possibly can, because I want people to understand that you're heard and that you're important, you're valued. That just means a lot. I'm a mom, so it's like I tell my kids that. Why wouldn't I say that to anybody? It's like, you're valued. And I think that's been the biggest response, is just people saying, you see me, you hear me. And so I'm trying to engage, as much as I can. I find that Twitter's been good because I can do quick responses, and I try to get everybody's name in there just that they know I'm not just like, scrolling through. I'm reading these stories and I'm crying and like I'm just, they're so...
outpouring of emotion, sure.
Instagram's been really great just because I can write a piece, and it's just navigating, figuring out how to combine, like really put them together. I'm not as social media savvy as a lot of people are, but I'm trying, and I try to tag everything together. And
that Grey's Anatomy boot camp didn't get you into the social media game.
I wasn't even on it at that point.
Is that when you weren't live tweeting?
No, because I was like, I don't know that I'm really all that interesting. For me, I was just like, what am I going to tweet? Just say, this is what I get at Starbucks, which in turn, is actually a really smart thing to do. But I didn't know that. I wasn't aware of that, and then now, knowing
it's a whole new game when the CW is involved, and like the whole Arrowverse in general.
Yeah, absolutely. But I really genuinely believe if you're put in a position of influence, it is a disservice not only to others, but a disservice to yourself to not use it in a way that's going to be positive and to build people up. In a world that's so negative right now, and in an industry that can be so negative.
Right.
If there's one thing that I can do is to encourage one person, then I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
And you and your husband have spoken about being very faith-based and have your own charity and do a lot of work for good. But I imagine there are a lot of people also from the Christian community, although I know you're from a non-denominational church, that they probably don't love that you're a representative of this. Have you had to deal with that?
Yes, I have. And it's been an interesting journey because it made me question a lot of things myself. And, growing up, I didn't grow up in church, but it was kind of like this fast sort of growing thing for my husband and I. And I say this delicately, but there's a lot of things that I just don't agree with. And so explaining it to some of my friends and even family members, and them saying, well, how can you, and being genuine, not like being, judgmental, but just like, how can you do that, do a storyline like this, be portrayed like this, have a physical, intimate relationship with another woman. And it's like, because I'm a human being, and I'm not perfect, and I'm flawed, and you're flawed, and how can I sit here, things that I've done in my own past and in my own life that I might not, I could be ashamed about, or I could be, I can't sit here and judge somebody. If you want to take it from a scriptural place, it's like, you can't sit here and point out the flaws in somebody else without doing it to yourself.
Sure.
And it's so not a spiritual aspect. I don't think like this is just a matter of, we're talking about humanity, we're talking about people discovering who they are, and whatever that faith is for yourself, as long as you're staying true to who you are. I'm telling a story is what it is. I'm a storyteller, and I can't follow a lot of things that people say. It's interesting. I'm trying to find a good way to navigate this part, but when I found out about the storyline was very shortly after the Orlando shooting, and for me, I had such a hard time even thinking from a Christian standpoint. You could say, well, if someone's homosexual, then it's evil. It's that's a hell-based thing. And I'm just sitting here going, how could you possibly say that everybody that was involved and everybody that was in that club was gonna go to? I can't understand. I can't understand that.
Yeah.
And so it's been an interesting thing. I have had family and friends say like, well, we're just not comfortable having our kids watch the show anymore. I'm like, that's I gotta respect that that's you. That's your parent. You do your own thing. I'm a person who believes that everybody should be loved equally. That's me. And if that's what the God from the Bible should do, and that's what He does. And so I'm not here to point fingers or anything, but it's been an interesting thing. It has.
To talk about. But it's also a great conversation piece. And
Absolutely.
And I think also the community, one thing that I just love about this show, and I think also Greg Berlanti has just done this, well, all of his shows, obviously Melissa Benoist leads the show, but it really feels like, especially with Supergirl, that it really is almost like an ensemble.
Absolutely.
And that you guys all lift each other. And I thought maybe you could speak to that, just like what that community brings and how supportive everybody is of each character on this show.
That's the thing. Like, there aren't many times when you get a cast that genuinely everybody works well together. Not from a performance standpoint. I'm saying like real deal. Like, and the people that we have on set and in the show are just real. They're authentic. They're amazing, and we're all very much in support of each other. It's not about who has more screen time or who has more dialogue or anything. It's a camaraderie because we're passionate about what we're doing, and what we're doing is making a difference. A really big difference. We're not just talking about one thing. We're literally covering a plethora of social issues and things that are going on in the world that I think makes us very unique out of the comic book genre shows. We're one that's really covering a lot of bases passionately.
Absolutely. And we know that there's going to be a lot coming up with your story as well. I hope there's going to be no breakups. Can you at least tease that there are no breakups for you?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Not that I know
We'll take
of.
that. Power of influence. Continue following you. You're all over social media. You're live tweeting the show on Mondays. It's all Supergirl. It's all the time. Watch if you haven't been catching up on the CW app, on demand, whatever you need to do. This season has been phenomenal. So
it's been.
I think you guys really found your home switching over to the CW as well, being supported with.
I do too. It
the
gave
youth
us a
and
lot
the
of
people
runway.
that need to. You're truly using your power of influence.
I'm trying, our organization is called Charity Pulse, and that's what we're very much based on. Is taking what you have, where you are right now, and turning it into something that is going to create a positive social impact and just make a difference. And that's what we're doing. We're doing it, and I'm very proud.
Yeah, charitypulse.com.
Yes,
absolutely.
Ma'am.
And Chyler Leigh, thank you so much for hanging out.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.